Jarman, now as a representative of British business, would you like to go, to leave, or would you like to stay?
The vast majority of businesses in Britain want Britain to remain in the EU. They see it as a huge market, and the risk of leaving the EU is just that. It is a risk. It's about uncertainty. It's about doubt about what being outside the EU would really be. So that's why many businesses and many manufacturers who are involved in supply chains and businesses that operate across Europe want Britain to remain in the EU.
What about Commonwealth? What about our being a global player before? Because as one of the most ancient empires, you had a you have a history before entering the EU. So don't you think they can come back to this pattern and become once again an independent player?
It's not about either or. We want to trade with the whole of the world. We want to trade with the Commonwealth. We want to trade through the EU. We want to work with our partners in the EU. There is an issue that goes outside of business, which is about Britain's position in the world and how we operate and being in partnership with our fellow countries in Europe. That's a wider issue. But in terms of trade, in terms of business, yes, of course we want to trade with the Commonwealth, but we don't see it as an either-or option. We see being a part of a bloc that's made up of 500 million people gives us a much stronger voice in business than if we were sitting alone as an island with 60 million people.
What would you say to those who think that our European Commission became like Soviet apparatchiks and they restrain your freedom of creativity?
Our support for being a member of the EU doesn't mean that we think the EU is perfect in any way, shape or form. It has many faults and there are many things that we as business people would like to see changed. But you make that change from within and you make that change through leadership and you don't make that change by just walking away.
So what are your expectations from tomorrow's council? Do you think that this deal is fair? Are you content with this deal as a representative of business circles?
We'll have to see the detail of the deal to see whether or not it's a good deal for Britain. But we certainly support the Prime Minister's efforts in terms of the changes that he is proposing. And I hope that other member states will come on board, support Britain, help Britain remain within the EU. So we're quite optimistic.
How many businesses do you represent?
We represent over 20,000 businesses in the UK alone. We're also chair of a manufacturing group in Brussels, which together represents about 200,000 businesses across the EU. So we have quite a strong mandate from our membership, certainly in Britain, to support Britain's continued membership of the EU.
What are the risks for your businesses in case Britain leaves?
Well, it's the great unknown. It's the uncertainty. If you speak to Leave campaigners, they can't describe to you exactly what Britain will do when we leave the EU. We just don't know. Why would you take that risk? You spend your whole life in business trying to avoid uncertainty and risk. Why would you take a leap into the unknown when, at least with the certainty of the EU, you know what you're dealing with and you know how you can change it for the better?